Happy New Year from us at the Bandwagon Fan. This is the show where we talk all things pop culture. Welcome to episode 6. This is the first episode of 2022. I'm Josh.
I'm AJ.
And Alex is here. He's here. He just doesn't feel like talking.
He's shy today.
Yeah, he does like talk. He enjoys listening to us talk, so he's nodding his head.
Yeah, I mean, we're here. We're supporting him in his choice to just not speak today. So
in his vow of silence. So we'll move on and talk about the latest news. We're gonna talk about AJ's favorite film of all time, Matrix Resurrections.
Nope.
Tell us how you really feel.
Resurrection of a dumpster fire. Yeah,
So
they weren't satisfied. They weren't satisfied with the third one. They were like, we just gotta keep putting this back into the ground.
So I have not seen it yet. I've seen a lot of people hating on it on Twitter. If you're listening, you've seen it, let us know what you think. Add us, comment, do all that stuff. If I ever have a day where I have nothing to do, maybe I'll watch it. But I'll take your word for it, AJ.
It's not even. It wasn't even. I wouldn't even waste your time.
That bad, huh?
You're better off like watching like I can't think of one right now who's done a review. I think Dan Merle on YouTube.
Okay.
Shout out to Dan Merle. He's probably one of my favorite movie YouTubers. Like
nice.
He used to be on was it Fandom, the Fandom Entertainment YouTube channel?
Oh, okay. Nice.
And back Screen Junkies, that's what it used to be called.
Oh, Screen Junkies.
Yes,
yeah, I know that
Screen
one.
Junkies got bought out by Fandom Entertainment.
Okay.
He used to be on there. He's probably one of my favorite movie critics.
Yeah.
He's awesome. I think he did a review on it. So you'll kind of get a synopsis of the movie by watching like a review of it, but you don't need to. There's nothing fun to watch in it. So
if you can find that later and share it on our socials, and tag him,
well, I'll tag him.
Yeah,
he'll probably be like, "What is this?" But
who are these people?
I know, right?
Yeah. Before we start recording, you said there's a pretty meta joke. Would it be?
Oh well, yeah. In the movie, yeah. So like, it's so weird. The Matrix. I guess Warner Brothers. They really wanted, as you guys know, everything is a streaming service now. And so Warner Brothers is very desperate to kind of collect IPs to add to the streaming service. So before a lot of this was even put into fruition, they had kind of come out to, I think the Wachowski Sisters. I'm sorry if I'm butchering their name, or the siblings, I should say.
I believe one's a man and one is now she now, right?
I thought they both transitioned. Okay, the siblings.
I have no idea.
I don't remember.
I'm pretty
anymore.
sure one of them transitioned.
Okay, so
if you know, tell us.
Yeah, I apologize, but the Wachowski siblings, I think that's how you say their name.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers came out and said, "We're going to make this movie whether you guys or not," and they were like, "Okay." So they made it, but they kind of made it like tongue in cheek, almost like saying like, "Well, this is our answer to this type of movie being forced to be made." There's some meta comments in the movie. Explicitly, they literally say in the movie, "Well, Warner Brothers is going to make The Matrix without you or not." And I'm like, that's wild. I literally did a double take. I'm like, what? And I rewound, and I'm like, they just said that in the movie. It was crazy. It was nuts.
So basically, they made this movie with the intent of, hey, everyone, this is garbage, but blame Warner Brothers.
Yeah, that's really what it seemed like.
Okay.
But it's interesting because at the bare minimum, speaking of like metaverses, I don't know if you know what the metaverse is or what's been going on.
Very limited, and I don't like what I'm seeing.
It's pretty wild. So if you know, Facebook did a move similar to like what a lot of these big companies do, where for branding purposes or even often legal purposes, they will create a parent company and then essentially have all their child companies become, just like branched underneath. So
they're like subsidizing, like, so you're not considered a monopoly or tycoon or whatever.
Yes, that's one of the legal reasons why.
That's the main reason. Let's be real.
I think the most tangible thing I can probably point to is like when Google, for example, transitioned from Google to Alphabet. So we keep calling Google. Yes. So
I did not know that.
we keep calling Google.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, the company is now Alphabet. It's been like that for like 5 years. Yes.
I did not know that.
And YouTube and Google and Boston Dynamics, these are all just, I guess, subsidiaries of Alphabet.
Huh. Alex is nodding his head. Okay.
Yeah, I know Alex. But yeah, so essentially the metaverse, so Facebook changed their name to Meta with the intent of, well, first of all, you know that Facebook owns Oculus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
they have like WhatsApp and Instagram, some other stuff.
Instagram and then Oculus, right?
If you use WhatsApp because you think it's secure, don't kid yourself because Facebook owns it.
Yeah,
that's why
it isn't. But they use that, and I think this is a push to kind of make a new space for one of the things that they own. So with the Oculus, there's all kinds of games you could play, including just like a metaverse. A metaverse is, if you guys remember what Second Life is, or
like from the Office.
MMO. Yeah, like from The Office. Okay. It's like a virtual world. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like
The Sims, but a little bit more interactive, right?
Much more interactive because you are quote unquote physically in it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a stepping stone to like augmented virtual reality. I don't know which one's which.
You're right.
The Matrix.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm bringing this up.
Right. Yeah.
So like, tell me what do you know about it?
I remember seeing Mark Zuckerberg talking about it. So honestly, that in itself was off-putting enough for me to not be too invested in what he was saying. Right. But he's like, oh, you can literally like engage with people as if it's real life. But it was like really cartoon looking, which is
that was more of a demo.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that was the actual, like I said, his appearance was distracting enough for me personally.
Right. So, right. Yeah. That was more of a demo. That I don't think that's what, he's trying to give a visual interpretation of what that would look like to the common person who has no idea what virtual reality is.
Okay.
Like my dad has no idea what virtual reality is. You know what I mean? So it was more of like a visual representation of it. But the problem is you have all these, of course, gaming companies now trying to wedge into, the metaverse, right? The metaverse, just so everyone understands, literally does not exist. There is no connected universe between virtual reality games. It's just this term that is constantly being thrown out there for virtual reality, but everyone's trying to get a piece of the pie. Specifically, these games that have already existed, they're now like selling real estate in a virtual world. And in some cases, like the real estate costs more than the actual land piece it's replicating.
Wait,
it is insane. And people are, hypothetically, people are paying money to purchase real estate in this metaverse, but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's weird now, but if this ever goes anywhere, like in the future, like if you bought it now, your descendants could be set for life. Like if it's actually ever worth something.
That's why everyone
scenario for the buyer.
That's why everyone is trying to get a piece of it. Now, personally, I do agree with that sentiment. I do think that, just like real life, we're going to start charging people for virtual space.
Oh yeah.
Sure. We already kind of do it to a degree, right? With cloud storage, but
I mean, you have to pay for water. So
yeah. So with that said, I don't think it's going to be in these iterations.
Oh yeah.
Right. For a true metaverse to exist, they have to be able to be connected. Right. So that means it has to come from one source.
Yeah.
So that's just another mess to not look forward to.
Who do you think is going to make that bridge? Is it going to be Disney? You think it's going to be Facebook, Google,
honestly,
Apple?
I think it's going to be a different company that we haven't seen yet. Just because, the historically what happens when these big companies. Okay, I'll give you a really good example. Right, Apple, one of the most valuable companies in the world, over, I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, decided to make this transition from hardware, right? They're a hardware company.
I know where you're going. I remember.
You know what I mean? They are a hardware company. So they sell phones, they sell music players, computers, right? And now they're trying to sell digital services, right? Now, the downside is that that pivot, not only are they making that pivot super late, it's just not their expertise. They're to think that in that space that they're going to be able to keep up with Amazon and Microsoft and Netflix on the streaming side. That's just not. I don't know how realistic that is.
Yeah, you know what?
You know what I mean?
Now you just said that, I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon just buys everybody out at the rate that things are going.
So if there was a company that I think could do that, I would probably put my money on Amazon.
Yeah,
just because they've had so much of a lead in terms of like digital services and way they can.
Anytime their servers go down, it destroys everything.
Well, not just that, but they are literally the leader in like digital, like, you know what I mean, like digital cloud services.
Right, and people don't know that, which is
people don't know that.
Crazy.
People don't know that majority of the money Amazon makes comes from their digital services. They don't know that.
Right. So, like, for all of you who joined me in the world of education when Power School was down, it's because they used the Amazon.
Yeah. Amazon. Yep. A lot of things.
If you were swiping over your break over the holidays, Tinder uses Amazon services.
Tinder uses Amazon. Yep.
So it's everywhere, man.
Yep. It's nuts, man.
You know who's probably not going to be creating the metaverse is Warner Brothers at the rate they're going. Save for this new film that they have coming out soon, which is the Batman.
Oh, I can't wait.
I can't wait. Did you watch the new trailer?
Yes.
Okay. I just watched it before we started recording.
Yeah.
And have you read Batman Year One?
No, but you told me about it.
For the life of me, I cannot remember who wrote it. Was it Frank Miller? That's probably wrong. Tell me who it was.
That might be wrong. I don't know.
But anyways,
what about it?
I feel like they're going to be drawing a lot from that. It's a very inexperienced Batman, a very still traumatized Bruce Wayne, man-child. I really like where they're going with Catwoman because it seems to draw from Year One.
Frank Miller, by the way.
It was Frank Miller.
Nice.
Sometimes I get things right.
There you go. You got it.
For those of you on Twitter who I told that were always wrong, I was wrong about being wrong too.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Takes backs.
Yeah. Yep. I take it back. But the Catwoman that Zoe Kravitz is portraying seems to be the Catwoman from Year One, which is really it's a really cool take. I'm not a big fan of her design in Year One, but in this, Zoe Kravitz looks amazing.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, she's. I think she fits. She looks like she fits the Catwoman.
100%.
Let me put it this way. She looks like a better Catwoman than Anne Hathaway.
Yes, which I respect Anne Hathaway, but Zoe Kravitz,
I didn't hate her performance. I just don't think. By the way, Anne Hathaway would have made a terrific Poison Ivy. Just saying.
I never thought about that, but you are 100% correct.
She would have made a terrific Poison Ivy. I didn't think she would have been a Catwoman, but I think she definitely could have been Poison Ivy, and it would have been out of the park.
Man,
that's just my opinion. I love Anne Hathaway.
She still could be.
Yeah, she still could be. I love Anne Hathaway. I think she's a phenomenal actress.
For real,
didn't think. Yeah, I just didn't think I just didn't think the role for Catwoman was as good because it's like I don't know. It's like this cat presence. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Zoe Kravitz has. This
that like
feline,
agility and
this feline presence,
the fluidity of movement.
Right.
Anne Hathaway is like, I don't want to say rigid, but like more regal.
Yeah,
presenting. I don't know if that's the right word for it.
Which is that is the right word.
Which is a great presence to have.
Which is why I think that she could have done Poison Ivy because it's almost this regal and aggression that she could pull off. So I don't know.
You know what? It could still happen.
Hollywood, someone get me for casting. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, for real. Let's do that. Then you can see Anne Hathaway with Margot Robbie because if you don't know, Harley and Ivy are a couple.
That's true. Although that'd be weird. That would be weird to see in real life. That would be Anne Hathaway and Margot Robbie. I don't know.
You never know, man.
We never know. We'll see.
But yeah, so that trailer looks pretty good.
Yeah, looks dope.
I was trying to put that off, but then I thought, we're talking about pop culture on the show. I should probably watch it so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
It looks great. One thing I really enjoyed was there's a character, I don't know who she is talking to Bruce Wayne and saying, like, don't you think you could be doing more? Your parents were philanthropists. What are you doing?
Yeah.
In the trailer, it keeps showing Batman cuts. So I'm wondering, are they trying to say Batman does do stuff? But what I really hope is what they say is Bruce Wayne isn't doing enough and we actually see that in this movie where he decides to use his money to help the city.
I was thinking about that same. I was thinking about the same thing, and I'm like, yeah, is that what they're insinuating, that like Batman's just kind of like in an FU mood and doesn't really want to. He's not doing. He thinks he's doing enough for Gotham because he's sacrificing his body,
right?
But he's not doing things to help Gotham as a whole.
He's putting a Band-Aid on the problem, which is commendable in itself. But as Bruce Wayne, he can do so much more. And I hope they do that, because that's one thing about the character that has always bothered me. Yeah. The fact that he doesn't use his money to help the city a whole lot, and the fact that he's such a man-child. I would love to see some growth in this character.
And also, I think Robert Pattinson's going to do this role justice. I know a lot of people weren't hyped about it, but you guys don't know. The guy can act. He's a good actor.
I was just talking about this. Ever since Heath Ledger's Joker, I have been willing to give anybody a shot at any role. Like, I'm not going to judge you until I see you in the film.
Yeah, it's fair.
I hope he kills it. I'm a huge Batman fan.
Yeah.
So I very skeptical because of how much we've been burned by DC films of late. But this does look very good.
We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Speaking of other movies, did you watch West Side Story yet?
Not yet. Okay. We're making our way. So, it's very funny about this, because I think we're going to talk about In the Heights as well real quick.
Real quick, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So one of my wife and I, our favorite things to do, because as you know, award season's coming up, we try to watch as many of the movies that get nominated. There are so I don't know if you know, there are a ton of musicals that have been made this year. Like,
really? Okay.
So like West Side Story,
West Side Story.
The Heights, this film that is called Annette. It's this. I hear it's good. I'm gonna give it a shot. Adam Driver's in it.
Okay, cool.
Marion Cotillard, I think that's how you say it, is in it.
Nice.
It looks like a really freaky psychedelic like musical. It looks so bizarre, but it's very polarizing. People either love it or hate it. It's whatever. Okay. There's also Tick Tick Boom with Andrew Garfield, a lot of people think that Andrew Garfield may win
Best Actor or something.
Best Actor for his role. Yeah, because apparently it's Lin-Manuel Miranda's first I'm like drawing a blank today. Directorial debut.
Oh, wow.
For a film. Yeah. So that is on the table as well. And I was looking at that. I'm like, that's insane. That's like 4 musicals that would be in like contention for just these like award shows. That's really weird.
That's wow. Those are some good films to.
That's what I'm saying. Like isn't that weird? That's so bizarre. I think it's the Bohemian Rhapsody effect, like it made so much noise in the award season.
True.
And then Targan, what's his name? I cannot remember the actor's name. The guy who plays the main character from The Kingsman. If you've ever seen that movie,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yes. Yeah. I can't remember his last name, but he was in Rocket Man, which I love so much more than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Was he Billy Joel?
That I don't think so. I don't think so. He was Rocket Man is about Elton John.
I don't know why in my head I was thinking Elton John, but Billy Joel came out of my mouth.
Yeah. No, I was like Billy Joel. I was like, if he's doing a movie as Billy Joel,
person.
Very different person. But yes, he was Elton John, and he did a bang up job. So I'm wondering if that's why people are like, oh, people like musicals.
Which is, you know what? Let's do that. I'm fine.
I mean, I'm okay with it too. Just don't give us Cats, please.
They tried.
Yeah. No, it was bad. That's what I'm saying. Just don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to see West Side Story.
Me too.
Going in the vein of that, I just watched In the Heights. And then before that, I watched Encanto. And the 3 things, or the 3 films all have in common being a focus on Latino culture from various aspects. West Side Story is about the term back then would have been Chicano culture. I don't really know if that term's used anymore. Encanto takes place in Colombia, and then In the Heights is in Washington Heights. So there's like this mix of different Latino cultures there. And Encanto was a beautiful film. The songs were okay, in my opinion.
Okay.
I
Which is
want to
surprising.
I want to rewatch it because
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
He did a song for
basically, him and Disney are like this.
Yes.
Okay, like
yes.
They're like, we're never letting you go. So
Alex is nodding his head again. But it's visually though, it's probably one of the most beautiful animated films I've ever seen, in my personal opinion. Just the way the colors are and how much subtlety you see of like Latino culture in it.
Okay.
I mean, you could also say, a movie like Coco, equally like all the crazy colors and stuff. But I don't know, maybe I was just feeling sentimental, but that movie really resonated with me.
That's cool.
And then In the Heights, same thing, very emotional. I was not expecting that. I expected a lot of like cheesy stuff to happen, and there was that. But there were some really hard-hitting emotional parts that I like connected with personally.
Yeah.
So really, really cool to have these 3 films coming out somewhat recently. I think In the Heights came out. I don't know when that one came out.
You know who wrote the play In the Heights, by the way?
I do.
Lin-Manuel freaking Miranda, baby.
Yeah.
Hollywood's favorite Latino. That's right.
Yeah.
You know who it is.
Yeah. No, you know what? Good for him. And like I keep saying this, I love seeing that representation. I want more of it. It's a good time to be around, to be seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because growing up, you really didn't. The only like Latino thing I can think of off the top of my head, animated film wise, would be Emperor's New Groove.
Oh, but, love that movie.
It's a fantastic movie, but if you look at the voice cast, it's all white people.
It's colonized.
It is. It is the colonizers.
Yeah. I was like, this is an interesting metaphor too.
It's a great film, but yeah, like
great film. Yeah.
All white people.
I know.
So it's really cool to see that now, that you see the actors, directors, writers. In the Heights was directed by the guy who did Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh, I like that movie.
So I mean,
it's a little based odd series, but
is it okay?
Yeah,
a little odd that they didn't have a Latino director, but still cool that you see a diversity like within the cast.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I'm cool with all that stuff. In a little bit. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I also think that it's just nice to see people included. I think that if you are a person of color, you just become so accustomed to seeing everything through the lens of a certain demographic. So I think a lot of times it's just hard to, if you're not a person of color, it's hard to see why that would matter. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And like I talk to people who don't think it's a big deal.
Sure.
I'm like, you don't get it. Like, you just don't.
But I would argue.
I don't hold it against them, but it's just like, you just don't understand.
I would argue that there's no need for them to get it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's true.
It's not, it doesn't affect you. I wouldn't expect you to get it, and that's
true.
Okay. Yeah.
And like In the Heights is not subtle. Like there's a lot of talk about gentrification and things like that, immigration. Mm-hmm. Also, the guy who played Dre in Straight Outta Compton's in
Straight Outta Compton. Great biopic, by the way.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And like the last thing I'll say about this is, if you are in support of this kind of diversity, seeing these stories told, please go see these movies, stream them, whatever, so that Hollywood knows we want this kind of stuff.
We want that. Yeah, it's true. Also, this week, we had a rough week going into 2022.
2021 could not go out quietly.
We lost Betty White. She passed away, and John Madden in the same week.
Yeah, it's wild, dude.
It's just really sad. Betty White has been acting for, literally, I think 80 years. I think I was reading. So she's had a long history of. She's definitely made her she's carved her name in Hollywood's history. So that's pretty cool. And John Madden, I think if you didn't know who John Madden was, there's a game named after him. I just think
been around for like forever.
How powerful is it that his name, people don't even know that's a person. I didn't realize that until this week, that people didn't know John Madden was a person. I was like, are you serious? That's crazy.
It took, like, when I was a kid, it took me a few years of playing those games to be like, oh, this is named after a person. But yeah, so RIP to those two legends. But let's get into something a little bit more
Yeah. So what did you watch? Yeah, what did you watch this past week since we've been gone?
I watched. So since we've been gone, I've seen Spider-Man, No Way Home, and the Book of Boba Fett.
Okay, let's talk about Spider-Man first.
Let's get it.
What were your thoughts?
Thumbs up.
Okay.
It did feel long though. I will say that, but I still enjoyed it. I really liked that they did not hold their punches in this film. Full spoilers. If you haven't seen it at this point, like, I don't know if you intend to.
I don't know if
you're that invested in like not hearing about spoilers. If you are, I guess fast forward like 20 minutes. I don't know. Overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. That was great. They didn't hold their punches. That's always been my greatest criticism of Marvel films is punch, sad moment, joke. And this one, they broke the formula a little bit and they piled on the sad moments, which I was a big fan of.
I'm going to give a pretty interesting answer here.
All right,
I also give it a thumbs up.
Yes.
With a but on a couple of things. Number one, if you don't like Marvel movies, this movie was probably very overwhelming for you.
Oh, for sure.
There is so much being pulled from other literally dimensions that it's pretty intense to try to understand and make sense of who this person is and who that person is and why does that matter and what does this moment mean. So with that said, I felt a little weird about the way this movie was planned out. Okay. So I think we've talked about this on previous episodes before, but Sony is fiending to make their own cinematic universe, right? Remember that?
Which they can't do. Like, I'm just going to say they can't do it.
I don't think they'll be able to do it either, especially after watching Venom. Let me tell you, that was wild. If you realize that this movie was kind of framed so that literally Peter Parker never existed in the MCU.
Well, that's a little. They were not very clear on that. Like, is he erased from history, or people just don't know who he is?
People don't know who he is,
right?
So and the reason why we know this is because at the end of the film, he no longer has the Iron Man spider suit, which means he never met Tony Stark. Remember, he's sewing his own. He sewed his own spider
wasn't
suit.
The replicator destroyed too? Wasn't that the other thing?
Replicator. Regardless, I think what that was supposed to signify is that he's a, thematically he's a I guess a new man, right? In the sense of like he's taken on this mantle of responsibility, right? Which is fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also signifies that he doesn't know the Avengers. Right? Like, he doesn't know.
They know Spider-Man. They just don't know Peter Parker.
I don't think so.
I think that's it. I think Spider-Man is still in the public consciousness, just not Peter Parker. Because the whole spell is Peter Parker is no longer known.
So I guess that would be weird then, because how, they all know that he's Peter Parker, right?
I don't know, like, if everybody knows.
Well, at least the way I looked at it, that they kind of framed it so that they could make their own movies with Tom Holland without ever including MCU related stuff. That's how I looked at it. I did not
think of that's very possible. Yeah.
That's how I looked at that, because I'm like the fact that he's made his own suit, the fact that he's literally, unfortunately, made himself a recluse. Yeah. In the sense of like, the only two people he's had left in his life, he can no longer rely on, or three people, he can no longer rely on them anymore. So I would make an argument that like they kind of wrap that up so that they don't really need to reference those movies to make movies.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that going forward, they're going to be making more movies that relate to whatever BS Sony tries to roll out for their villains.
I pray to all that is good in this world that does not happen.
Because if you remember where we started with all this was that they weren't even going to make this movie. Remember the whole contract dispute?
Yeah,
Sony
What's his face? He like drunkenly called Kevin Feige.
Yeah, Kevin Feige. I mean, they called asking Kevin Feige to do something. Sony or Disney was trying to strong arm Sony for that. Like I think it was like 50%, something wild like that. Yeah, something crazy. So with all that said, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun. It was Willem Dafoe. I tip my hat to that guy. Because he brought his A game, his B game,
actually everybody
did. Everybody brought their game. Yeah. But I thought that out of all the people, him and Andrew Garfield really came and they're like, we're gonna cut up the floor. We're gonna cut it up.
I'm so glad you said that about Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
This was like a reckoning for him.
Right.
This was like, hey, this is what I can do when there's a good script and a good story.
I mean, he had redemption.
He did, and they poked fun at him specifically in this film so many times.
Right.
They were very aware of like, we know he's the least favorite.
Right.
And so they kept like poking and prodding and pushing him down. And then he had that beautiful moment where, again, if you haven't seen the movie, you probably don't care about this stuff, where he saves MJ and then he starts crying and she's like, "Are you okay?" That moment, I knew that was going to happen. Like as soon as I knew he was in the film, I was like, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it did, and it paid off for me. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it really just, that moment encapsulated the fact that this was like a redemption story for him. And now The Amazing Spider-Man 3 is trending on Twitter and stuff. So
yeah,
it's like people don't know what they've got until it's gone.
But it's going to happen though. Sony is going to try and utilize the multiverse concept to throw out as many Spider-Man as they can. Because when they're done with Tom Holland, then they're going to start the casting for Miles Morales live action. And when they're done with that, you know what I mean? And then they're going to do Gwen Stacy Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen. Yeah. So, look, I enjoy Spider-Man to a degree. I think it's probably more beneficial for a story to kind of stick with one Spider-Man. But I just question how long will Sony be able to pump out Spider people before the IP gets stale. That's my only concern.
It depends how they handle it. Okay. If they do this right, it'll be like one of the greatest comebacks of all time. I don't have any faith in them, to be honest.
I don't have faith in them either. So we'll see.
For the sake of everybody who works on it, because like you have to remember, and like if you watch these films and you don't like them and you like are vocal about that, like we forget, like people spend their time, their sweat and their tears making these films.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to make a bad film.
Yeah.
What it comes down to is somebody who's in charge doesn't know how to properly delegate and steer the direction. Mm-hmm. And then we ended up with these low quality films like Venom 2. And so I don't want that to happen. I want these people who are very talented to see their hard work pay off.
So let me ask you this. What was your favorite moment from the movie?
Andrew Garfield saving MJ was one. Yeah. The part where they realized Tobey Maguire makes his own webbing. And that little bit.
That was pretty funny. That was a really funny moment.
All the moments between the different Peters was great. They each played their character perfectly.
Yes.
And it just played so well. They blended so well together. And that's a tribute to these three actors. Like Tobey was like the kind of older, wiser guy. Andrew Garfield was like the quarter life crisis guy. And then Tom Holland was the kind of younger and naive. I mean, he's grown up a lot in the past few films, but he's still a little bit more naive than the other two. So they had a good dynamic to play off. Or the part where Ned finds out that his destiny is to betray
that part made me laugh. That was pretty funny as well. Yeah.
Because I'm sure you know that Ned in the comics becomes the Hobgoblin at one point.
Ned does too?
Ned becomes the Hobgoblin.
Interesting.
I think he gets tricked into it. I don't know the exact story. So I'm wondering if they'll do that with this Ned.
So foreshadowing maybe?
It was either foreshadowing or them saying we are aware of this, but we're not going to do it.
Okay.
We'll see. What was your favorite moment though?
My favorite moment probably was when they find Peter on the, I don't remember what building he was on.
Oh,
but when they find, yes, that was probably my favorite moment when
the
they're
emotions
all
in that,
when they're all telling him like, "Hey, man, it's tough and it's not easy and it doesn't get easier, but you gotta be who you are. And I thought that was a good moment. That was probably my favorite moment. That it's not easy for these movies to have a personal moment like that.
Yes, 100%.
You know, but that was my favorite. That was my favorite part.
Now that you say that, I agree. Alex is nodding his head through tears.
Alex, what's wrong, man? Oh gosh,
he just walked out. He'll be back.
Yeah, he's gonna walk that one off. What about your least favorite moment?
Least favorite. Real quick before I say that, now that you mentioned that moment, that was when I knew this was going to work. And again, the emotional payoff is what I find lacking in a lot of these Marvel movies.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a very solid thing. Least favorite moment, the fact that like the whole thing with the Sandman and the Lizard was just really weird. I felt like they were kind of throwaway characters.
Yeah.
Again, like especially Sandman, he just chills in the Statue of Liberty. He doesn't try to get out,
and he's not evil. I didn't understand.
Yeah, he flipped not real quick.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this? What is this flip between? I'll help you, psych. Like that was weird.
It was a little too Judas Iscariot for me.
Right.
Like, what did they give you, dude?
Yeah, that's. I think my least favorite moment was probably the moments with Doctor Strange. Not because of Doctor Strange, but because the only thing about this movie that didn't work for me was, well, not the only thing. One of the few things that didn't work for me was that I felt like it really did. They kind of forced the plot. Peter has witnessed the literal unraveling of the universe and decides, yeah, I can take this on, which is a very wild thing for someone who literally saw half the universe get snapped out of existence.
He was one of those people.
So I thought that was a really wild thing for him to just take Doctor Strange's stuff and dip. I think it would have worked if one of the villains was a villain that he himself like fought in one of the previous two movies, because then I would understand his guilt. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
You see what I'm trying to say? Like I would see where the guilt is tied to, especially in the case of Mysterio, because we know he feels guilty about that. And they allude to that a little bit as his reasoning for doing that, but I don't think it hits the same because he doesn't know any of these villains. What if Dr. Ock was a pedo? Would he still feel as compelled to say, like, you're taking the AI part and bringing back the pedo? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I know that's an extreme example. Yes, I know that's an extreme example, but my point was kind of like, you don't see the emotional attachment, so I don't really get why he felt so compelled to save their lives and risking the entire universe for that. I just thought that was, I felt like that was a little forced, in my opinion.
The start of it was, but then the whole thing with May, where she's like, "You need to save these guys."
Sure.
He's like, he doesn't have anybody else in his life. Tony's dead. Happy. They kind of have like a weird relationship, but like it's him and May. So anything she says is like the word of God to him. So and I guess like that
I got it. To me, it kind of tasted like Marvel/Disney was like, "Hey, this is what we need the story to be, Sony."
Right.
And Sony's like, hey, this is what we want to do. And that's kind of where they met up in the middle. So I kind of thought that was a little forced. So that's probably what I would say. I just did not enjoy that. I didn't enjoy that.
Alex is back. He's nodding his head. He agrees.
Thanks, Alex. Always there, man.
Yeah.
Always there. What else? Oh, I also wanted, if you want to transition, unless you want to say anything else about Spider-Man.
No, let us know if you're listening what you thought of it. I sound like a broken record player. I'll say it again. I'm assuming you have seen it if you're listening to this. If you didn't see it yet, go watch it and see if you agree or disagree with us. Don't let us sway your opinion.
Yeah. I also watch Hawkeye.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I also watch Hawkeye. I did not enjoy it, but I enjoyed parts. Does that make sense?
Thumbs down, 2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down.
I'm going to give it 1 thumb down.
Okay.
It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. And there wasn't enough good for me to like enjoy it. Like it did kind of feel like a chore watching it. I felt like Hawkeye. I can't remember.
Jeremy
Barton. Clint Barton. Okay. Clint Barton. It's just like a one note character.
Yeah.
This grizzled, like, and we've seen, like, how many times have we seen that character? This grizzled, jaded person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now that you're saying it, it's an overused trope that if we hadn't seen it so much, it would have really worked.
Yeah.
I'll give Hawkeye 1 thumb up.
Okay.
Not 2, just 1.
One. Oh, just 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas, something like Shang-Chi, 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. So there were parts in there where I kind of felt. Oh, by the way, spoilers. I mean, you know what? I'm just gonna make a blanket statement. On our podcast, we will not tell you about spoilers. If we talk about something, you don't want to hear it, we'll put it in the description, I guess, of the show, so you know what we're talking about. But just know that we're going to talk about this. I feel like in this time, in this era, when you have to say spoilers, it's really silly. Most of the time, you already know that we're going to talk about it. Whatever.
I mean, anyways, I'll still probably say it.
Oh, God. Just letting you know, I probably won't.
Yeah,
but anyways,
just fine.
I didn't really. I don't know. I didn't like. Do you remember the actress's name who plays Kate Bishop?
Haley Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld. I didn't like the way she portrayed Kate Bishop. I was a little annoyed with the character. I liked that Kate Bishop loves to help people.
Yes.
But I feel like she does it in like a self-serving way, if that makes any sense. Something that one of the characters said earlier, it might have been Hawkeye. It might have been Hawkeye that said it to her, was that she was spoiled. And I'm like, that's why the character doesn't feel genuine to me, because she is spoiled. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like, she is used to getting her way. And like, I know in theory, she's like using her getting her way to help people, but it just comes off weird sometimes.
So how does that compare to someone like Batman then?
In what way? Like elaborate. Like how's it differ?
Well, or are you a Batman fan?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, so then
I'm not the biggest Batman fan, but like I like Batman. You know,
because I feel you on that. She's portrayed a little bit differently in the comics, like a lot quirkier, and a lot more. I don't know, just different. And I like the David Aja and Matt Fraction run. That personification is really good. But like, how does that differ from Batman?
I would say like if I had to give an opinion about the difference between them, I think Batman doesn't do things for individual people. He, like we were talking about that earlier, like he kind of does things for the greater good.
Of
and so like you could make an argument that Batman doesn't give a crap about people. Like I know that sounds weird, but like it's kind of true. Like unless, I mean, and again, I'm not like the deepest Batman fan, so like I'm sure someone's gonna be like, well, an episode. Look, I don't know. I'm just talking about if we're generalizing the characters. Batman isn't a people person. I mean, come on, the dude only comes out at night. He wears a cape and he puts people in the hospital. Okay, like that's his MO. So he's not trying to help people. Where I can feel that Kate wants to help people, but it's almost like the inverse. Like she's so out of touch. She doesn't know how. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like she doesn't know how. She's lived this secluded life for a long time because she's rich. So she doesn't know how to help people in a genuine way. You know what I mean? Whereas I feel like Captain America, like I feel like that's genuine, right? Like he always trying to put people first, literally always trying to do that. So I mean, like
he's a broke, skinny, weak asthmatic kid from the Bronx or Brooklyn or wherever he's from.
Yes. And same thing with Spider-Man. Same exact thing with Spider-Man. Right. You can feel because he knows what it's like, you know. Right. So that's what felt weird to me about the character.
That and like going into it, I knew that's an uphill battle. Is like how for most people in the world, how do you relate to a character who lives in a New York penthouse?
Right.
Whereas like with Echo, Alakwa Cox's character.
Okay.
that was my favorite part of the show. I love that she was cast. If you don't know, in real life, she is deaf. She's Native American, and she's an amputee. Yeah, she has a prosthetic. Like the prosthetic leg in the show is real.
Whoa, that's really cool.
So I 100%.
She killed it.
100% love that character.
Yeah, she killed it.
So excited for her show.
Yeah, she did a great job. Wait,
so
she's getting a show?
Yeah, we talked about it on our Disney Plus Day episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were like, who's Echo? That's her.
Oh, wow. I just put that together. Oh, wow. That's cool. Right. Okay.
So I'm wondering what they're going to do with that. And now that we have Daredevil in the MCU, we have Wilson Fisk in the MCU.
Can I pause?
Yes.
Can I pause? Okay. I forgot to mention that was my other favorite part of Spider-Man.
Okay, Matt Murdock.
Matt Murdock appearing. I was like, because he did that actor. I can't remember his name right now, but Kelly he did. I love him as Daredevil. So But
Vincent D'Onofrio, whatever that guy's name is, Wilson Fisk.
Yeah,
fantastic.
So
I'm really excited to see what they do with Echo's character, and then when we finally get the X-Men in, I wonder if then we'll get to see the Phoenix Echo.
And remember, my theory still stays that the metaverse mumbo jumbo that might have been the nexus or genesis for X-Men. However, I was going to say that my favorite part of Hawkeye was I think her name is Florence Pugh. She plays Black Widow's sister.
Yelena.
Thank you. She's the best part of Black Widow. Dude. She's the best part of Black Widow, and yet again, this woman steps on the scene and she cuts up that floor. She is my favorite character in maybe all the MCU. She is hilarious. Okay, she is very, very funny and yet very scary at the same time.
Yes, which is what makes her so amazing. She can play like that flip real quick.
Yeah, so I love that she was in this, and her episode was a really good episode. I think it was episode 5. She was in the duration of. So, I give it a thumbs down, but it's something to watch.
There was good stuff in there, though.
There are good stuff in there. There were good fights.
Yeah,
I'll give them that. There were good fights in there. But other than that, I mean, skim it.
Yeah, it's something you could watch like loosely, like while you're cooking or doing the laundry or something.
Yeah, I agree.
I watched an episode at the gym, but moving on to other things that I streamed and you streamed as well. The Book of Boba Fett episode 1. Watch that.
Yes,
that
was awesome.
I give it 2 thumbs up.
Okay, I would give it 3.
I'll tell you. I'll get into it a little bit.
Okay.
Why?
Okay.
But really quick background. Again, I'm a SJW to some of you listening probably, because I'm going to talk about how great the diversity in this whole production is. You have 2 of the leads. One is I can't think of her character's name, but Ming-Na Wen, who plays Boba Fett's like right-hand woman.
Right hand.
So, and the actress she's Malaysian Chinese. She lived in Hong Kong and then came to the US. So she's a CCK, cross-cultural kid. Love seeing that. Temuera Morrison. Always say his name wrong. He's a New Zealander of Maori descent. He's also Scottish and Irish. But I love that we get to see a native New Zealander as a lead in this. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Kimmel's nephew was in this. He was the Tuscan boy that was with Boba Fett.
I saw that actually. Yes, yeah. He was the Tuscan, And he was also in WandaVision, I think.
Chief. Yeah, right. He was in something else. You're right.
He was in WandaVision. He was in the commercial or something like that. Yeah, in WandaVision.
Right.
Yeah.
Other casting things that were cool. Javier Jimenez isn't. I don't know who that is, but Latino is the Tuscan chief. The Tuscan woman that fights Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Joanna Bennett.
She's the
stunt double.
Yeah.
For Mira, Amber Heard in Aquaman. Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman, and Brie Larson in Captain Marvel.
Yep.
So this woman, she tears it up as a stunt person. So that was cool.
I mean, she destroyed Boba Fett.
Yeah. Oh,
she manhandled him. I was like, yo, who is this person? That's awesome.
Dude, she messed him up.
Yeah, she messed him up.
That was cool.
That was awesome.
Directed by Latino Robert Rodriguez, who was actually in the show. He was in the show.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, that's awesome. Yeah, and he's also the mayor. He's going to be the mayor.
Oh,
he is the mayor. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
He does.
I didn't know that.
I'm 99% sure he's the voice for the mayor.
Okay, yeah. And then it's written and created by Jon Favreau, who,
of course,
I recently watched Chef, which is semi-autobiographical. For those of you who don't know, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it.
It's really good.
It talks a lot about his experience with Marvel and the Iron Man franchise and like his life after that. And then
he's the reason why we have the MCU.
I feel bad for like the things that happened to him with that, but it turned out for the better because now we have the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Him and Dave Filoni have saved Star Wars in my opinion.
Star Wars tremendously. Yeah.
Yes. The costumes in the set, in my opinion, as good as the Mandalorian. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, there was nothing I did not love about this. And can I say I'm a big Parks and Recs fan? So I laughed so hard when the scene of Boba Fett breaking out of the Sarlacc Pit was almost word for word taken from that episode of Parks and Rec when Patton Oswalt's character is filibustering. And he's filibustering. You never seen this?
I have. I forgot about that.
I will post this on socials then because in that episode he's filibustering and he is using his fanfic for Star Wars. And word for word, the description of Boba Fett breaking out of the Sarlacc Pit, they used it. Even the point of sticking his hand out. It's hilarious. I literally laughed because I was like, that was amazing.
That was intentional then.
Yes, it had to have been. There's no way. It had to have been intentional.
Well, actually, one thing though, and this is why I give it 2 thumbs up, is I'm a hardcore nerd. So as a kid, I read all those Star Wars books. And there's actually a book that details this. It's an anthology book called Tales from Jabba's Palace. And then there's also a book series about Boba Fett's life around this time. And you see him like escaping from the Sarlacc Pit, like almost dead. Yeah. There's this really iconic image that I'll post on our socials from 1998 by a guy named Dave Dorman, where you see Boba Fett, like he's like halfway out of the Sarlacc Pit and it's got a tentacle wrapped around him and he's like shooting his flamethrower down into it. Really, really cool image. But yeah, dude, like this episode, it was phenomenal.
So I loved how little words were used.
Yes.
In the episode. Not because I don't like dialogue or something like that, but because it tonally, it fits the character of Boba Fett. He is literally a man of little words. Okay?
Yeah.
And beyond being a man of little words, we know that his career as a bounty hunter, you're judged on your actions. And so I felt like it's showing that even like everything about that first episode reflected that so well.
Yeah,
he gets captured. He escapes the Sarlacc Pit. We see the Jawas. Right, we see the Jawas. They come. They take the armor off, and that's how we find. If you watch The Mandalorian, you find out where it happens to that stuff.
Yeah, and
then he's left in there, and the are they called Sand People? What are they called?
Sand People or the Tusken Raiders?
I call them Sand People.
Same thing.
But yeah. The Sand People, they come, they take them, and I thought that was all very, fine. I wasn't really engaged. And then when you're watching the episode,
real quick about that part though, I actually did really enjoy that, and hope we see more of it because there was a comic in the 2000s that some guy a Jedi gets captured by the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
And he eventually like becomes their chieftain, and he has a son who is also a Tusken. So then they're both Jedi.
Are they people?
They are people. And like they have their own language, but they also speak Basic, which is English to us.
Yeah.
So if you're a white girl, Tusken or Star Wars had Basic before you, just FYI.
Okay. So like because I didn't mean that I didn't enjoy that part. It just nothing was happening other than him being dragged.
Okay, gotcha.
That's kind of what I meant about that. And I just felt that it was so, watching that journey, right? From being captured, trying to escape, right? And then the best scene, or second best scene, I should say, is when they, instead of killing him, they fight, they challenge him. I'm wondering if that's part of their culture,
their culture
or something. Yeah, their culture.
Which is really cool. The one thing, my one concern about that is I hope this doesn't turn into an outsider comes in and conquers a native culture. Like,
I
I
don't
hope
think
he like
so.
really, really learns from them, and like he would not have survived without them, type of thing.
I don't think so.
That's my
And the only
only
reason,
concern.
and the only reason why I don't think that's the case is because we see that obviously he must have joined this clan.
Yeah.
Because he was wearing Tusken gear
Right.
when we see him in Mandalorian.
And he knows how to fight with a gaffy stick at that point.
Exactly. So I have to assume that he is just there, he gets by, and there's probably something in terms of like the greater Star Wars universe that we kind of get bits and pieces of while he's there. But I think I loved every scene. I love, you see Boba in the future and he's like, all right, I'm going to run this ship. And everyone's like, we don't even know who you are, which makes sense. He's been gone for so long. They don't remember who he is. So like that, you know what I mean? Like that makes sense. And then the scene when they're in the desert looking for the water and then they fight that thing. I don't even know what that was, but I'm like, what is that?
Someone
that was
on
awesome.
Twitter said that Tatooine is basically space Australia.
Basically, because I was like, dude, that thing was sleeping there. Oh, wow. That was awesome. I loved the episode. I thought it was fun. I thought it was good.
Yeah, and he talks about wanting to rule with respect. And some people are like, I thought that was kind of a cheesy line in the trailer, but seeing it how it plays out in the episode, I was cool with it.
It paid off.
It did. And when you think about the whole Mandalorian culture, it kind of seems like that's just a part of their culture.
It is.
Like they will respect you. They're very harsh, but they're big on respect and like treating people with a measure of equality.
Right.
And if you want to see more of that, I would highly recommend reading a series of books by Karen Travis, the Republic Commando series. Did you ever play the Republic Commando video game? It was basically like Star Wars Halo. And so
the one on Xbox, right?
Yes.
Okay.
She, Karen Travis, she also wrote Gears of War books, but she did Republic Commando. And there's like a very strong look at the Mandalorian culture and how it affected those clone commandos.
Okay.
And I think there is a measure of Maori culture drawn into that, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
So if you're a fan of that, of experiencing that more, check those out. There's also like a Jango Fett comic book from like 2000 something that was really good. Also,
you brought up Jango Fett, and there's a flashback scene when Boba's a kid, and I didn't realize. So something that I always laughed about when I first saw the movie when I was a kid, Star Wars Episode 2, is when Jango's decapitated.
Yes.
I was like, how is Boba Fett picking up his helmet and the head's not sliding out?
Maybe. I actually think it flies out.
It does fly out. Yes. I never noticed that until
as a kid, I knew that.
You see, if you don't know what we're talking about, when Jango Fett gets decapitated in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, is that? Yeah, Attack of the Clones. There you can see the helmet and his head separated via shadow.
Yep.
Which I'm like, geez, that's dark.
As a kid, I like watched that scene in slow-mo because I was actually wondering that.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, he's gonna pick up his head and it's gonna slide out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Disney won't get that dark.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, I give it 2 thumbs up because
can I add one thing? Can I add one thing as well? Have you watched The Bad Batch?
I have not yet. I haven't finished Clone Wars yet. I know. I gotta get on that. What is there a link?
Yes.
Okay.
And a good one.
Yeah.
And I'm really tempted, but only because you have not watched Clone Wars, even though I've told you many times in the past to watch Clone Wars.
Dude, I've slowly been trying to get through it. It's just,
I'll wait.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
I'll wait. For not the sake of our listeners. I don't know you guys yet, so I don't really care. But for Josh's sake, I'll wait to tell you a pretty good theory. So we'll see.
All right. With that, let's get out of here. Alex is nodding his head. Cool. That's it for our show. If you like what you heard, subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of our content. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button. If you're on a platform that allows it, drop us a comment down below and or rating, which Spotify now has ratings. Most of you are on Spotify and Apple, so those downloads, those reviews, those ratings, that means a lot to us because it helps us to grow so that more people can listen to the show. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Bandwagon Fan Pod and Facebook and YouTube at The Bandwagon Fan. We also have a Discord that will be linking in our socials. You can find episodes wherever you listen to your other favorite podcasts. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you in the next one.
Bandwagon is hosted by Josh Jimenez, Alex Magosa, and me, AJ. Our show is produced and mixed by me, again. Our theme song is Lush Waves by Taylor Lewin of _audio. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.